Hi, welcome back to Grains in Small Places. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're going to be making some dry boxed cake mixes. So I know a lot of you have been sending me messages asking me if I have a dry boxed cake. And so I thought, let's go ahead and do this. What perfect time to do it but the holiday season. So these could be something that you can keep in your refrigerator or your freezer or gift to someone else. So I thought homemade gifts for holiday season sounds like a great idea. So let's get started. Okay, so I'm going to be using soft white wheat today. You can alter this to use like spelt or einkorn or something like that, but I highly recommend you go by weight rather than volume. But don't worry, if you're gifting this to somebody, you only need to weigh out the ingredients for the dry mix, and then when they go to make it, those instructions will be simple volume instructions like a cup of butter, a cup of buttermilk, things like that, so that you won't have to have your scale out for that, for when you want to make that. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is, if you want to make just one of these mixes, you can just weigh out the wheat berries for that one mix. But weighing definitely gives you more accurate results. So we're going to go with soft white wheat, and for the yellow cake mix it's 300 grams, and for the chocolate cake mix it's 210 grams. So I'm going to go ahead and mill 510 grams. And I'll mill a little extra just to account for like some of the dust that gets left in the machine occasionally. Because we're going to be doing this at bulk, I'll just put a little bit extra in there, because we're going to go ahead and re-weigh these when we're putting them in our jar to make sure that we don't overfill it, because it's a really close fill for a quart-sized jar. So let's head on over to the mill. Today I'm using the Nutrimill Impact Mill, which is one of their newer mills. I've really been loving this mill. It makes beautiful fine flour. I'll make sure to put a link in the description box below for this mill and a $20 off coupon if you use my code GRAINY. And here is our beautiful fresh milled flour. I'll make sure to put a link in the description box to all the things that you see me using here. And I wanted to make note, my daughter has made some really cute little cards. Some of them are holiday. She also has some non-holiday in case these aren't holiday gifts, but they're super cute, and she has them as a printable PDF in her Etsy shop. She's very good at digital and graphic design and things like that. So I'll make sure to put a link to her shop in the description box below if you're interested in checking out her little tags, so you can cut these out and put them right on the jars and give them as lovely little gifts. Okay, so the first thing you're gonna do is grab a quart-sized jar. Now this is a tight fit in here. And then I really highly recommend some kind of like canning funnel that has like the wide mouth, I would recommend. And then we're going to zero out our scale. Make sure you zero it out, otherwise you won't have an accurate weight. So we're gonna start out with our yellow cake mix. Now this mix is pretty amazing because there's so many recipes on the internet that call for a boxed cake mix. So this will satisfy that need for a boxed yellow cake mix. So we're going to start out by filling it with 300 grams of the flour, and you may have to jostle this down to make sure everything fits in here. So if you only milled for just one of these, then you could just pour the whole batch of flour in, but chances are you're probably going to be making a batch of these because they're so wonderful, and you can keep them at your own house as well. I was even thinking, like, you know, if you have somebody in a younger child, or your husband, or anything like that, your teenagers, anything that if they want to make fresh milled flour snack, this would be a great go-to, because half of the work is already done and everything is already, everything's already been milled. You've chosen what wheat berry to use. You took all of the hard guesswork out of it. Okay, so we're going to shake that down. And I'm going to see how this fills quite a bit in here, but if we jostle this down, it comes way further down. It was up here, I shook it down. You may even have to give it a tap on the counter. Okay, after that, you're going to use, I'm gonna zero this out again, And you're going to use about 32 grams of some kind of starch. Now I'm using potato starch because my daughter has a corn sensitivity. You can use cornstarch here. There's arrowroot powder, a few other options you could use as well. But this is what turns our flour kind of into a cake flour, and it holds on to a lot of the moisture. So in the description box below, I will put a link to the recipe. It will have volume in grams, but again, I highly recommend you use grams rather than volume. And then I'll also have the directions how to reconstitute this into a cake, or you can use this, as I said before, in some of those other recipes that you see online that call for a box of cake mix. So we're gonna add a teaspoon of baking powder. I like to use the non-aluminum kind. And then we're gonna add a half a teaspoon of baking soda. And then we're gonna add a half a teaspoon of salt. And you know, if you've been following me for any bit of time, that I've been loving this Baja Gold Salt. I do have a coupon code to save you 10% off in the description box below. Okay, so that's it for this portion. So if you want, you can stir this all together before you pour it in there. That's gonna be like basically the bottom layer for the yellow cake mix, and then we're going to add in our sugar. I'm gonna zero this out again. Now I'm using raw cane sugar here. We're looking for 332 grams. The raw cane sugar kind of looks really pretty against the flour that's in here as well. And we're gonna have to do some jostling to get this in here. 332 grams. You can use other kinds of sweetener if you want to use like maple sugar or honey granules or sucanat. Those would all be great options as well. Okay, so I don't want to jostle this too much on my scale, so I'm just going to set the scale to the side. And you can see this is full to the top, but we're just going to give it a little bit of shaking, which works it all down into our jar. Of course, you could use a bigger jar, but now we're below the neck of that. I can pull this out, and it's ready to go. And then you can just put your lid on and cover this. This is not canned by any means, but you could also put a cute little piece of fabric, a little ribbon and a bow, and one of these adorable little gift tags. So this is what it looks like from the side. So we have the dry ingredients here, the sugar here. This is just plain yellow cake mix. So to mix this mix up, they're going to add a cup of melted butter, which is 2 sticks of butter, 3 eggs, a tablespoon of vanilla extract. If they want to add any other flavors to that, at that point they can, like almond extract or anything like that, and a cup of buttermilk. If they don't have buttermilk, they can always use the trick of a cup of milk with a tablespoon of white vinegar or lemon juice. For the vanilla, I wanted to mention, I do have a little video on how to make your own homemade vanilla. And those, you could take a bottle like this. Now it does take about 6 months for it to be fully ready to go, but you could take a bottle like this and pour it into little bottles and then gift that with this. It'd be a really super cute gift. So I'll try to remember to put a link to that video in the description box below as well. So all they're gonna do is mix in all of those ingredients, allow it to rest for about 15 minutes just so it can start absorbing the liquid and the brands start to soften. They're gonna grease their 9x13 pan or 2 8x8 round pans, depending on which way they wanna do it. Bake it at 350 degrees for 25 to 30 minutes when those little edges start to pull away. And then top with their favorite frosting or buttercream. I do have some recipes for that on my website. You could also share that if they want to check out those homemade frostings. But I just think that turned out so cute. It's very simple, nice, homemade fresh milled flour gift or to have on your shelf. Now this is not necessarily pantry stable because This is fresh milled flour. It does still have the bran and the germ and the vitamin E, which means it can go rancid faster than white flour. So I highly recommend to keep this in the refrigerator. I would say at least 7 days in the refrigerator, it should be fine. If you want long-term storage, this could go in the freezer. It could go in the freezer for probably 4 months without an issue. So I just wanted to make note for that. So let's go ahead and start making the chocolate cake. Okay, let me pull my scale back over here. Okay, this one, we're gonna zero that out, is going to be really close to the same way that you made the yellow cake mix, but it's slightly different. So we're gonna add 210 grams of our fresh milled soft white wheat flour. $210. Okay, so I guess that's the little extra bit that we milled. Let me get that down into there. Okay, I'm gonna give it a little shake. Okay, I'm gonna zero this out again because we're gonna add in our starch. Again, that's turning this kind of into our faux cake flour. So 32 grams of whatever starch you want to use. A little bit too much. We're going to do a teaspoon of that baking powder, a teaspoon of baking soda, and a half a teaspoon of that salt. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and let this jostle down a little bit. Because now we're going to add our cocoa powder. I'm going to zero this out because we're going to add 64 grams of our cocoa powder. And you can be as decorative as you want with this. If you want to do more than one layer of cocoa powder and make it kind of striped, or however creative you want to get. This cocoa powder smells so good. Okay, make sure that all goes in. Okay, and then we're going to put in our raw cane sugar. So we're going to zero this out and put in our sugar. I feel like this is really similar to one of those like sand art things that we did as a kid. If you did those, I don't know what generation you're from, but for my generation, that was a really popular, fun activity to do. Okay. Alrighty, I'm gonna set this to the side here so we can work this down a little bit. Okay. Then we're just going to put the top on this. Again, you could decorate this however you want or keep it nice and plain. And we have our beautiful layered little gift. So what fun of an idea that this is. And you can use it for all kinds of gifts and just to have in your refrigerator ready to go anytime you want a quick snack. So if you're interested in any more of these kind of recipes, let me know in the comments below, because I'm kind of having fun with this idea and I can think of a whole bunch of other ideas that we could make as a dry mix like this and keep in our refrigerator or freezer and have them on hand for some quick snacks or quick desserts. So let me know if you're interested in any more ideas like this, whether they're for the holidays or just to have on your shelf. So for them to mix this one up, it's almost the same as the vanilla. They're going to use 3/4 cup of melted butter. They could use oil if they prefer. And then, so that's like 1.5 sticks. And then 3 eggs, tablespoon of vanilla extract, and a cup of buttermilk. And again, they could use the cup of whole milk with a tablespoon of vinegar or lemon juice. So super simple for them to throw together once the day comes that you want to make this cake. or use in any recipes that call for boxed cake mix. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I hope you found some inspiration for some homemade Christmas gifts or holiday gifting, or even just having some wonderful fresh milled flour conveniences right at your hand in your refrigerator. So whether you choose the chocolate or the yellow cake mix, let me know down in the comments below which you would prefer. Also, let me know if you want me to come up with some more dry mixes to have on hand, just for that convenience sake. It's super handy. So look how cute these turned out with the little tags and with just a little bit of fabric. How much cuter. So I wanted to just show you how cute they could be. Use your creativity. Whatever you come up with, I'm sure would be a blessed and wonderful gift for someone. I'll make sure to link down in the description box below how you can make your own dry mixes, also how they can reconstitute them. These little cards that my daughter made in her shop have the instructions of how they can make this into a cake, or she also has them in blank form if you'd rather handwrite it, or whatever you prefer. So again, there's some holiday and non-holiday. Also, don't forget to check out my blog where you can find these recipes or a whole bunch of other recipes all dedicated to fresh milled flour. So thanks for stopping by Grains in Small Places. Goodbye.